I've been considering on doing this Lonely Vibes video involving Halloween to include my experiences of doing the second Halloween Mania, because unlike last year, which I had a blast doing despite the stress, this Halloween Mania really shows that what I said last year of not doing another Halloween Mania, I was so into the holidays so much to the point that after doing Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon, I really wanted to give my viewers a great time in October before my schedule goes back to normal once this month is over, since obviously not everything has gone back to normal yet since Summerpalooza 5 began. So, for the sake of this Lonely Vibes video, centering around my experiences of Halloween videos, it'll be centering on how I felt Halloween in the earlier years, mainly from 2017 to 2020 and maybe 2021, up until this year, when it comes to October, and my experiences of doing Halloween Mania 2 on why Halloween Mania 2 became a thing. And I will address onto why doing a sequel of Halloween Mania 2, Halloween Mania 3 of doing movies isn't really a good idea, considering I don't usually do that when it comes to other holiday schedules of Christmas and Valentine's Day, of just only reviewing movies based off of the holiday that were in during that times. But we're gonna get to that later, mainly towards the end of this video. When it comes to the very first October while I did Halloween reviews back in 2017, it wasn't really the best. Like, since technically I did skip Halloween Mania, no, not really Halloween Mania, but the Halloween schedule in October of 2016, since my channel was still new back then, I really didn't have much to explore when it comes to doing the reviews that I had. Like, the very first videos that I did were based off of DreamWorks and Pixar shorts that were airing during the Halloween season. And as much as I really enjoy doing those, it's really an odd way to start somewhere, considering that all these were released in one day, which is a thing that I did back then. And regardless if this was part of the charm of recording stuff in front of my laptop, I really didn't have memories of doing any of this, considering it wasn't really something I really enjoyed the most. Even if I would really wanted to remake these reviews because I could have done a lot more better, at the same time, I just didn't feel the interest into revisiting these because, well, whenever I look at these reviews back then, especially the stuff that I had to pick, it's honestly a waste of time to go back to them, considering that I just have less to say. Like, you wouldn't believe that the reviews that I did were a lot more shorter than the reviews that I do nowadays. If anything, you would probably be amazed on the fact that I was willing to do these types of reviews, but doing it at a slow amount of time, well, not really slow amount of time, but just a short amount of time, just to make sure that they'll are over with. And that's really what I experienced on doing these Halloween reviews, is because back then, since I was 19 as an adult, still new as an adult, but at the same time, I moved on from Halloween. And this was before doing a Christmas schedule that I was really into, even though it took time for me to get used to in the later years. The thing is that whenever I consider on doing these reviews back then, it just feels like I had to do them just to do something during the holiday season and nothing else. If anything, I just really wanted to at least attempt to celebrate something during the season, but at the same time, I just can't be able to get into the holiday itself, mainly the fact that back then, while 2017, I have vibes in that year, it doesn't change the fact that the stuff that I have by making YouTube videos, when it comes to before the cartoons that I've been watching since the 2020s decade, Halloween was really a sad month when it comes to my less experiences of having the stuff that I have that I'm interested in, to the point that I did 2 MLP reviews instead of 1, which for me personally, I'm supposed to review 1 episode from a show for a month, which is something that I'm starting to usually let it slide, but at times I had to use that rule literal in order to make most of this work. Like, as much as back then I was into My Little Pony a little bit more than anything else, let's just say that if My Little Pony wasn't even part of Halloween related or anything on my channel, then I'm pretty sure it would be a lot more depressing to see what I have to offer, and yet at the end of the day, there's just barely, and I mean barely, anything to work with when it comes to my first October of doing Halloween reviews, which is why in 2018 I didn't do a Halloween schedule and just mostly did other reviews that are non-Halloween related. And since that, I stopped recording stuff in front of my laptop, mainly the laptop from school that I used. It just kind of makes me feel like I want to focus on other material, since that I've been gaining attention when it comes to the type of videos that I did. And those videos had nothing to do with Halloween. So with that out of the way, let's get into 2019. Well, it's a slight improvement, but that's not saying much considering it has it only has 7 videos in comparison to 2017 that had 8 videos. Don't get me wrong, I actually did what I could in order to make this Halloween schedule really better than the last, considering that I have more to work with. But at the same time, I just feel like I was just trying to do something by giving Halloween a chance. And in the post that I made when it comes to my experiences of Halloween on If I Am Fiction, I just think of Halloween as a glorified holiday and nothing else. Like, the SpongeBob review that I did, I was being critical, but then again, I just can't be able to take the episode seriously, and just reviewing it as part of the October schedule is literally the only way to actually do something in order to have my opinions expressed on the episode, all the while doing the review, all the while doing Halloween related as well. Don't get me wrong, there is some other ways to make Halloween somewhat exciting, and I actually tried to do that when it comes to reviewing Halloween reviews, when it comes to Fairly OddParents and Jimmy Neutron, iCarly, That's So Raven, and the movie that I'm gonna get to later. But keep in mind, whenever I attempt to at least do something when it comes to these types of schedules back then, I was really focusing on other schedules because Halloween wasn't really something that I enjoyed, especially since that I never been to a haunted house back then. When I never go to a haunted house back then, and I had less interest into doing Halloween related, that is how much I had less interest into doing anything Halloween related. But at the same time, I can tell for a fact that if I didn't do any of these reviews, then I'm pretty sure that I would have no other alternative that I have for October of 2019, unlike 2018. And as much as I attempt to at least make sure I get something correct when it comes to celebrating Halloween, even though I'm not attempting to celebrate Halloween, there was some there is some good things here and there which I did address, But at the same time, you really need to understand that if you're not into a holiday like I was in the earlier years, it'll become a lot more difficult to find any enjoyment to do these types of videos, but those are a side of you that you really wanted to do them when it comes to the episodes themselves. And the picks that I did in 2019 were a lot more better. And when it comes to wrapping up 2019 in October, the Haunting Hour, Don't Think About It, really showcases that I want to do something special because I have knowledge of the Haunting Hour, Don't Think About It. And one of the reasons why I include this for my Halloween schedule of 2019. Like, even if people would probably not be interested into these types of stuff, I would still attempt to at least do different ideas, which I did in other schedules. And even if it can be a little bit problematic when it comes to what type of media I use, I only used the media that I was fully aware of, and this was still before I got into We Bare Bears and Steven Universe, and it was a difficult time since that this was around the time, well, My Little Pony came to an end, especially since I did my reviews of the final episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. So, it kind of felt, those kind of overshadowed this schedule in some other way, but at the same time, it's basically the schedule that I had to work with. Especially since that there were times where I at least upload one video at a time that I'm supposed to celebrate the holiday or anything else. Which, if you would consider of how doing these schedules back then was mostly different than how I make the videos now, you would understand on how these schedules are just mostly there, even if I try to make those videos have a purpose. When it comes to 2020, obviously it's a lot more lesser, which I'm gonna get to real soon. If you want to know how much that this schedule is really the end of me just trying to do as many ideas as possible, not really that, but me just trying to celebrate Halloween despite the fact that the pandemic is still going on to the point that people can't go trick-or-treating in 2020. I only think about these is because these videos were the last time I used my iPads before I started using my laptop. Like, that is literally the only vibe that I have when it comes to Halloween reviews of 2020, which for me personally really showcased of how much I just had less interest and vibes of doing this, which is honestly sad, but 2020 wasn't really a great year and a year to start off the decade. We can all agree that this decade had a terrible start and no one can disagree. The point is that I did have ideas when it comes to making these videos, and I will admit that the video that I did involving my reviews of Toby the Zombie and We Bare Bears Charlie's Halloween thing is something that I actually enjoyed doing, and I'm actually thankful that this is the last video that I did involving my iPad, and a good way to wrap up Halloween as a whole. But for the very least, it's probably better off if we focus on the later years, considering that the reason onto why there were less Halloween reviews of 2020 is because I actually did 4 fanfic readings from authors from FIM Fiction that were part of the October schedule. So I had other plans, and to tell you the truth, if you really think that I was being a little too harsh when it comes to the Halloween season, I wasn't being harsh, and me just not being interested into doing Halloween related is just me just focusing on other projects consistent of fanfic readings. and for fanfic readings, but you know what I mean. And just by doing most of this in that clashes with the October schedule, it really sums up that I really had less to work with when it comes to Halloween, to the point that I was just too depressed to even do any videos, considering that my old iPad was broken when it comes to the plug-in switch. That's one of the reasons onto why that I had a difficult time thinking about the Halloween season, is mainly the fact that the plug-in for my old iPad was broken. So my parents had to buy me a new one, which I still use to this day, but never making any videos off of it since I finally used my laptop and using it for my full potential even to this day. I'm just saying, this was honestly a weird way to think about it, considering that it overshadowed everything that I feel about what I feel about this schedule in general, but stuff like this happens. It's just difficult to look into Halloween in 2020, considering with the pandemic, and the ideas that I picked when it comes to the 2020 schedule were mostly low. Like, the Hannah Montana one was something I had to think of, because to tell you the truth, I was just trying to do something different, and Hannah Montana was something that I got into, especially doing a marathon of it in 2019. And the Nightmare on Wilson Way, which I think I spelled the name on, was literally the only thing that it got my mind on when it comes to what I feel about the episode itself. And this is the only appropriate time to talk about the episode, considering it's Halloween related. As for the Danny Phantom episode, well, honestly, I would probably consider this as somewhat of a one-up in order to make the schedule somewhat good. Well, aside from the We Bare Bears review, but it just really feels like I just wanted to do something in order to make this holiday really memorable for people who still like the Halloween holiday, but at the end of the day, it's not enough considering that there was only 6 videos for 2020. As far as I'm concerned, the earlier years from 2017 through 2020 was honestly a rough road for me when it comes to October schedules. So when we finally transition into 2021, that is where I took the holiday seriously, but at the same time, I still didn't enjoy it. Let's get the most infamous thing, not really infamous, but the most notable things that I did for this schedule. I did reviews off of 2 movies. One that I start off with, which is Hotel Transylvania, and the one that I wrap up with Coraline. Honestly, I would explain on why I'm not going to do any Halloween movie reviews towards the end, but the reason why I included these 2 is just to add some kind of hype for people to enjoy Halloween, all the while giving Halloween a chance. Like, it's way more difficult to do these movie reviews now because of how stress it got me in, and whenever I think about 2021 of Halloween reviews, I really wanted to give it a chance and actually show some respect, and I am going to when it comes to the fanfic reading. The choices that I made involving the movies were mostly something that I had to sit through. Like, I actually sit through Hotel Transylvania and Coraline, which is something I don't usually do. And this was around the time while I was reviewing the MCU movies that one of my Patreons want me to do. So when it comes to the reviews that I did, when it comes to the options, obviously it's a major improvement considering that I've gotten into more shows in the past. Craig of the Creek's Halloween episode that I actually reviewed, the Ghost of Mari McGee, which in all honesty, I'm surprised that I actually got into the show just in time in order to be nice enough to include another video for Halloween, for this Halloween schedule, which I'm really impressed and proud of to get into the show despite its ending. And when it comes to everything else, honestly, I would say that with the options that I have when doing these choices, again, I had minimal choices. I managed to do more than 10 Halloween videos, but at the same time, it still wasn't easy to pick the reviews, considering that seeing through them was a lot more difficult than it looked. And this was also before that my ability to get into, well, mainly make multiple videos has been dying down, and I had to take breaks in 2022. Especially the stress that I went through after making my schedules of a planned Summerpalooza 4 for 2022 only to scrap it, managing to do an LGBT month, and then it led to me giving up entirely of me skipping the month of September. But getting back into 2021, I still feel like that I actually did a lot more better here when it comes to the knowledge of these episodes after sitting through them. Like, sometimes these choices are mostly something that I'm trying to at least make these reviews worthwhile in some other capacity. And even though I may have different perspectives of these episodes now, I would probably try to at least do what I had back then in order to make these a thing. Because if anything, if I'm not going to be able to do any of this and just skip Halloween altogether, then I'm just going to be the only person who just found Halloween a week holiday, which the progress of doing this Halloween Mania, not really Halloween Mania, didn't exist back then, was me just trying to attempt on making all this work out when it comes to the choices that I made. Like, the Charlie's Halloween thing too was around the time I'm mostly boned out from doing We Bear Bears, and I managed to do a few more reviews, especially doing the Christmas fanfic that I did for December of 2021 schedule. And in all honestly, the more I think about the schedules that I did involving We Bear Bears or any other cartoon that I got into, it made me see of how much that I just miss those vibes a lot more, which the vibes are really kicking in comparison to the previous years, because I had the ability to do these videos and just miss the vibes of me just not doing those videos anymore, consistent of just what I had back then. Granted, I really wanted those vibes back and having the ability to do what I had back then, but moving forward to different projects is literally the only way I'm ever going to succeed into having my YouTube content move forward when it comes to new ideas. Now, before we continue on, let's get into the fanfic reading that I made for this schedule. Equestria Girls Nightmare Night at Equestria Horrorland. If you ask me, this is honestly the biggest highlight when it comes to giving Halloween 2021 schedule a chance of how much I wanted to care about it. And this was also around the time, well, Equestria Girls is slowly to die down on me ever since I got into the spin-off franchise and the main franchise after 5 years. But then again, this was also around the time, I was still into My Little Pony and Equestria Girls, and I was honestly waiting for the Generation 5 movie, all the while making Generation 5 videos along the way. The thing is that whenever I think about doing a fanfic when it comes to Halloween, it's gonna be complicated considering it's not the same as doing a Christmas fanfic. Like, I am thankful that I managed to do this fanfic in time while doing a fanfic reading of the 6 chapters, but at the same time, I really had less of an interest into doing the Equestria Girls, so 2021 really felt like the end of doing My Little Pony stuff related, since I've been focusing on other stuff in the process. Like, you can't be able to say that I given up on my YouTube content when it comes to the options that I had. When it comes to having new options, you can really tell that there's a new transition of doing these reviews for the sake of just trying to doing something different. And 2021 really showcases how much my video schedule changed while I mostly toned down, even though it wasn't really the case in some schedules, but mainly toned down of what I used to be when it comes to My Little Pony and whatnot. Like, that really sums up that back then when I was doing these videos, I was mostly focusing on just doing what's mostly the best to celebrate Halloween in the best of my abilities, but at the same time, even in 2021, I still didn't enjoy Halloween. Like, I still managed to do the Equestria Girls Halloween fanfic, yeah, but the reason why I mostly include 2021 when it comes to me starting Halloween reviews back in 2017 is mainly the fact that Halloween just still didn't click for me. And when it comes to the case of 2022, when I did only two videos of Halloween related, it was really around the time where I was extremely burned out when other things were going on. And mostly in the mental state that I was back then, that I had to work with less videos. When it comes to the Christmas videos that I put my main focus on, to the point that I had to skip September, to the point that I didn't want it to put too much pressure, all the while trying to fit in the videos for November, because whenever I think about November, I literally think about what I had to let out in order to do what I can, because November 2022 was honestly a month that I'm mostly thankful that I did, but at the same time, it didn't compare to the previous schedules that I did in the past. All I can say is that the videos that I did involving the Loud House Trick versus the Quasagante's Curse of the Candy Goblin and the Great Lakes Freakout that I reviewed that was new back at the time, I just had nothing else to work with for October, since I wasn't really into the Halloween season at all, especially since that the pandemic had died down, that people are allowed to come out without masks on. I just really didn't know what to do with this month. And the videos that I had was just literally just Loud House material, considering that I'm getting into the idea of Loud House vs. Quasagantes, which is mainly, this video itself is just mostly an appetizer of what I have in store for 2023 involving the Loud House. It's not like I was really it's not like I was thinking of just trying to do something a lot more exciting when it comes to the Halloween season, and celebrating the Loud House Halloween episode 5 years later when I uploaded this video was honestly the only way to make a video in some other capacity. It's just that I'm mostly upset that I didn't get into the Loud House in time to make my review of Tricked, but at the same time, considering of what I had back then, it really showcases of me just trying to start off somewhere when it comes to the schedules of Halloween. So with that being said, we really need to get into what really made me invested into Halloween ever since I stopped doing Summerpalooza 3, not really Summerpalooza 3, Summerpalooza 4 Beach Paradise, because as much as I had a difficult time doing Beach Paradise, Halloween Mania was really what got me so invested and actually having a newer direction when it comes to doing a schedule, especially doing more videos than I used to. If you want to know how much that October of 2023 really changed me to the point that I really enjoyed Halloween, it's because I basically did everything when it comes to doing schedules. I did Christmas, I did Valentine's Day. In fact, even if I didn't include Valentine's Day here, I still include summer, which I did in the past, and Christmas, and now I decided to give Halloween a chance. Honestly, me just doing other schedules to the point that it just gave me a new appreciation of Halloween, really gave me the urge of doing the first ever Halloween Mania. Let me just say for a fact that I actually had a blast doing all this and doing it all in time before October came, because I really had a great October last year. Not for making these videos, but mainly going through a haunted house for the first time to experience it. Granted, it has nothing to do with making these videos, but at the same time, you have to admit that I was really into the Halloween spirit to the point that this actually became a thing for the first time, and if it wasn't for me doing the other schedules, then I'm pretty sure that I still wouldn't do Halloween related whatsoever. This is what really makes this a huge turning point on doing the schedules, because as you can tell, I made a customized intro and outro for the first ever Halloween Mania, which is something I didn't do for Christmas. I didn't have the idea back then, so having this idea now when it comes to Halloween Mania is honestly a reason as to why I returned the same intro from last year for this year, and the outro, and the song This Is Halloween by Izzy, I can't spell the, I think it's Reunion, Izzy Reunion, I can't spell the last name, but me finally just doing a song with lyrics, with Halloween Mania being the main focus, I was honestly obsessed with the intro that I made. And when it comes to the videos that I made here, I had so much to work with, to the point that I have more options of me doing Halloween material and having more ways of making more videos, considering that I knew how to handle the capabilities of my laptop. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've learned a lot more to doing more of these when it comes to my laptop than my iPad. And learning about it more, I really had so much fun doing Halloween Mania related stuff, to the point that you can say for a fact that this was a long time coming to have Halloween the chance that it deserves. After years of skipping, and so much downsides due to other videos getting in the way. Honestly, what Halloween Mania works is that I still continued Loud House videos on Sundays, and the ideas that I had to work with. Obviously, I said that multiple times, but believe me, I don't even think I'm gonna be able to do any of this after this schedule, considering that the schedule that I did for this year was complicated. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when I had nothing to gain when it comes to doing any of this, that just sums up that a lot has changed when it comes to doing these schedules. I really gave Halloween a chance, and to tell you the truth, giving Halloween a chance was really what made me understand on why people enjoy Halloween as a whole. If you really think that it took way too long for me to get into the Halloween season, keep in mind, you'll probably feel the same way if you have a holiday that you used to like, but then you grew out of it, but you have other holidays to enjoy, and then when you've done the most of what you could for those holidays, and then you come back to the holiday that you mostly given up on, not really given up on, but moved on from, then you'll probably see new appreciation when it comes to Halloween itself. It was really something that I really enjoyed, to the point that it just made me see newer things in these episodes. Believe me, I seen through a lot of new ideas when it comes to doing these episodes, to the point that it just really made me enjoy Halloween as a whole a lot more better, and just really seeing of what made me appreciate on doing a Halloween schedule than in the previous years, because this is basically around the time where I had nothing to do when it comes to continuing on, and this was all before I did my Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon videos. Considering that I started doing those videos in September of last year up until March of this year. So it was Halloween was honestly lucky that it didn't went through so much stress, since it's actually getting so much forward potential. Well, the vibes are so kicking in. Like, it's incredibly kicking in that I just can't be able to consider of just ignoring this month in comparison to the other Halloween months that I did in the past. If you really think that all this was mostly possible because I was so into doing Halloween related stuff, then you pretty much would probably give a holiday a chance after giving it up. And even if it's not any of the stuff that I would do, keep in mind, you would probably see something that you haven't noticed involving the Halloween schedule, involving Halloween, that you haven't back then, which, watching these episodes, it gave me a new perspective on, especially a chance to actually do so much variety, because Halloween Mania had a lot of variety, even if it may be too much. The gimmick of uploading a video once per day when it comes to October 1st to October 31st has been done in other YouTube channels, and even in networks when it comes to cable back in the day, when it comes to celebrating Halloween in the month of October. Granted, that doesn't automatically mean that all videos were winners. There are mostly downsides when it comes to my perspective on things. But there's always at least a few options that aren't gonna be a hit. But then again, that's just basically the other videos that I did in the past. Sometimes I just really sometimes if I was able to promote, which I can't, but to tell you the truth, that requires money and stuff, which I'm not gonna be able to do. If I was willing to promote my videos in some other way when it comes to older videos, it would definitely be this, because I really had so much fun doing this despite the stress that I went through. It's just too difficult to instantly ignore what I did here in comparison to the previous years of what I went through of making Halloween schedules. And honestly, that kind of makes me that really makes me thankful that I actually watch more of these shows than just watching a few, because even though that nowadays I don't do that often since I have too much variety and options, or while making better choices along the way, I can't deny that if you would be willing to find some other way to make Halloween schedules good in some other capacity, you will probably do this. And whenever I think of the ideas that I did, well, apparently it's kind of weird to consider of the options that I did involving Malo. I'm sorry, I forgot about the name. It's been a while since I last talked about Heroes of Pure Heart, especially watching another episode. So doing the idea of reviewing newer shows for the sake of continuing with the schedule was something that made me grow a smile on the vibes that I did for 2023. Granted, it's obvious that I'm not getting back to these shows, and doing these holiday reviews is honestly something that is occasional. But at the end of the day, it's just difficult to instantly overlook of what I did for this in comparison to the previous years. Well, you can easily see night and day, but in this case, it's mostly night, but in a good way. When it comes to the projects that I did, let's just say that I was really trying to up my game. Over the Garden Wall for the longest time, I honestly thought that it was a Thanksgiving miniseries instead of a Halloween miniseries, but after looking into it, this is the perfect opportunity to review it for Halloween Mania instead of in November, because my original plans was to review this miniseries for Thanksgiving. But after looking into it a lot more, it's more of a Halloween miniseries rather than a Thanksgiving miniseries at most. Honestly, I just really looked into Halloween a lot more to the point that the ideals behind into making a schedule involving Halloween, this was honestly a best place to review Over the Garden Wall, because this is one of the final Halloween videos that I had to make to fill up Halloween Mania, which the final was the live-action Loud House movie. If anything, I'm just surprised that if I review this year, it would have been better late than never, but at the same time, it wouldn't make Halloween Mania any better. It wouldn't make Halloween Mania any more spectacular in a way. Well, you would see that I had so much passion doing this to the point that doing this at the last minute is honestly the best choice, even though it was difficult to review all the episodes, because 43 minutes of reviewing all the episodes was something I never thought I would actually do, but I actually did it. And believe me, if you really think that all this wasn't enough, nothing could compare to the fanfic that I did, which was The Loud House Over the Phobia Terror. And let me just say, with the idea of doing another Halloween fanfic, and while still being into The Loud House, this was honestly the perfect opportunity to do a fanfic reading for Halloween, but also kickstarting Halloween Mania as a whole. Because if you can't tell, I was into The Loud House back then, all the while being into the shipping of Lincoln and Gore Jordan. And this ideal of doing a Loud House fanfic again, to do a third JordanCon, or whatever you call it, as a third entry as my other two Lincoln and Gore Jordan fanfics, but also doing the Halloween fanfic, I was being a lot more literal for the good reasons of doing a fanfic. Like, let me just say this right now, that this was a lot more longer than it took. If you don't believe me, this was 15,000 words to put together, and the passion I had in it, I was honestly hoping that it would succeed when it comes to publishing this story entirely. Like, I really wanted people to be invested, to the point that the fanfic was actually delivered. Even though it may be sad that this fanfic didn't deliver in other websites, DeviantArt did a good job, and one of my DeviantArt friends actually did fan art of this fanfic mainly 3 times, and they did really well. Granted, I would have shown you what they look like, but I still didn't set them up in my iPad, considering, well, I was really in a stress into putting all this together, considering, well, I was focusing on my videos rather than just focusing on the fan art of others. But the point is that this fanfic was something I really had enjoyment into doing, especially since that I actually did screaming in this. Granted, I didn't scream out loud, and my acting was mostly bad, let's be honest, but I really wanted to at least make this a really good fanfic when it comes to it being the longest, of being almost 2 hours long. Well, it's more than an hour and a half long, and judging of how I really wanted to at least make this a lot more exciting, especially just trying to find background footage for this video in particular. Let's just say that the storage that I had back then in my laptop was honestly rude, even though it's not supposed to be like the computers that you use that has huge hard drives or softwares that mostly takes care of your issues. I just don't have those types of equipment, and I had to work with what I have. But despite with everything that I went through, I managed to pull it. I managed to get through it all. Got the fanfic on time. Got the fanfic finished on time. Especially finishing it in August, which means I started this fanfic from June to August, which was 2 months. And the passion that I did involving this fanfic of delivering it when it comes to the final paragraphs of this is honestly extraordinary. Granted, it's mainly the fact that I'm a Lincoln and Gore Jordan shipper, but you have to admit that doing this fanfic was honestly a challenge, considering it was the second Halloween fanfic that I ever did. And kickstarting it for this month is, not really this month, but last year's schedule was something that had a lot of work to be put in. If you really think that everything that I put through for Halloween Mania was over-exaggerating, that's mainly the fact that you don't see how I make videos. Like, I view Halloween Mania as Summerpalooza 5, where I do everything in order to make it a really good schedule, to the point that I'm thankful that I did all this. And even though I'm too proud of myself, and this is a little overboard when it comes to me being a little emotional, but this is something that is new to me. And whenever you do something new, you really wanted to capitalize it by any means necessary. Even though that this year's schedule is mostly a mixed bag, at the very least, what happens after Halloween Mania of last year was mainly what I had to go through when it comes to doing a schedule of what I felt after doing Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon. Well, I did promise that I was going to discuss on what I felt on doing this Halloween Mania, mainly Halloween Mania 2, and the choices that I made, but at the same time, you would probably consider it on what I went through in order to make this thing happen, but it's just mainly what I felt back in the day, because if you see this, obviously, I make videos ahead of time, which is no surprise, but when it comes to newcomers, they probably need the new information, I was really free when I did my Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon videos, despite the fact that I did fanfic readings and music videos, but I was really free of doing anything, and I had the knowledge of, you know what, I have so much time. I cover up my August and September schedules completely, taking a break off of the rest of September. So you know what? I'm gonna return Halloween Mania, and that's what I did. I decided to do a sequel towards Halloween Mania, but at the same time, there were some ups in this schedule, but at the same time, it ended up becoming a drag to put together. Like, it wasn't a terrible drag, but at the same time, there was a reason onto why, after doing this schedule, it's probably better off if to just giving October at least 8 or 12 Halloween reviews from now on. I would still be in the Halloween spirit, but at the same time, doing these was honestly not the best idea for most of the time. If you want to know what I mean, is that some of these reviews were mostly mostly out of not really okay. It's been almost 50 minutes of doing this one take. Give me some slack. The point is that doing these reviews were mostly out of Halloween buckets that are candy that you don't usually eat, which is supposed to be the lack of a pedo Tom. And the reason why I say that is because, well, I wasn't really impressed into doing any of these. Mainly the Wizards of Waverly Place Halloween review because, well, it's been a long time since I last talked about Wizards of Waverly Place, and it kind of shows that I'm not into the show, and me just discussing about the show itself, I really had less to talk about Halloween in this review, mainly the fact of how Wizards of Waverly Place executed it. And when it comes to Kim Possible, there's another reason why I never talked about this show or instantly looked back on this show when it comes to watching more episodes, because this was honestly not a good idea to make a review off of when it comes to my opinions towards it and my opinions towards the characters and the direction of the show, which, if you felt how you felt upon watching these reviews, I don't blame you. Like, I wanted Halloween Mania 2 to work, and my original plans was just to skip weekends, to give a break during the weekends, but with the adrenaline I have in Halloween, especially for this month, I really wanted Halloween Mania 2 to happen completely from beginning to end, especially when it came to the Loud House special that came out that I made a review off of, which I didn't include this because this was made ahead of time, but the point is that I pretty much knew that all these Halloween videos were not going to be a hit. Obviously, I'm not expecting high views when it comes to the choices that I made, but at the same time, you really need to understand that doing these reviews for this Halloween schedule wasn't really simple, to the point that putting these together was honestly a difficult task, and there were a lot of schedule changes and last minute decisions that, at this point, it's probably better off if I should have just made this weekend free when it comes to no weekend videos, but there's a part of me where I just really wanted to at least, and I mean at least, try to at least include material that I might plan on doing for the future, but I just can't be able to make up my mind whenever I try to reconsider. Now, give me a moment, I'm gonna be taking a drink. This is honestly the longest Lonely Vibes video, and it really shows that the last time I did a Lonely Vibes video, it was the longest, and I can guarantee you that the longer it takes for me to make these videos, the longer they become. But that's not really a problem, since that the point of making these types of videos is mainly having a purpose, and with some occasions they're not, and with this, obviously, I wanted to express my opinions on the final episodes of a show, which The Ghost of Maya McGee is there, and the last minute decisions are minimum at most, but at the same time, when it comes to the decisions that I had to make, I just wanted to decide, you know what, I seriously, and I mean seriously, want to review something else that can fit the Halloween season, but it has no Halloween related, but it still has horror related. Like, The Wars here is just trying to see what I can look into when it comes to these episodes and trying to find something different here and there, but you have to admit that what I have to look into in order to make most of this work is just mainly just finding new ideas from here and there when it comes to puppets, dolls, and whatnot. And I do find appreciation when it comes to those ideas, and to make them, and to do a review of them, and to do a review off of them when it comes to the episodes from Jimmy Neutron and other shows, especially Clarence. But let's just say there was so much going on that this schedule just feels less special than last year. Like, it's somewhat special, and there were some occasions that I did enjoy making reviews for the most, but at the same time, I would have picked those reviews and just scrapped the other ones, because as far as I'm concerned, this was just mostly something that I had less of a pain putting together, but at the same time, the choices that I made was just mostly of how I was just trying to continue something, but at the same time, try to find some nuance in order to continue on, in order to give Halloween more attention, mainly the fact that I haven't been giving it attention in the past. But at the same time, it's just me just trying to be back into doing holiday stuff, but also doing something different instead of doing Steven Universe related after the majority of summer, especially with triple and double uploads. When it comes to what I did involving the schedules for Halloween Mania 2, it's the fact that I only did one movie, and then I ended up doing two movies at the last minute, and those were Fred 2 Nights of the Living Fred and Halloween Underfist, Halloween Bash. Honestly, if it wasn't for me having knowledge of Fred 2 Nights of the Living Fred during my childhood, I wouldn't even do a review of it. But at the same time, I'm not like every other anti-Fred person who hates Fred completely, and I just want to give out my own perspective of what I feel involving a movie involving Fred that actually took it a little too, not really a little too seriously, but actually took advantage of its story rather than just, well, you know, just viewing it as a movie that is too dumbed down and people are just mostly just focusing on Lucas Cruikshank the most when it comes to YouTubers back in the day. And I just feel like that whenever I consider on doing these two movies when it comes to Underfist, Halloween Bash, I replaced Halloween Bash with the Gravity Falls review, but I felt regretful, and after reconsidering it, it ended up becoming one of the final Halloween Mania 2 videos, to the point that I'm pretty sure I had less interest into doing it for next year, considering of what's going to happen next year, but I can guarantee you that there isn't going to be a Halloween Mania similar to last year and this year, judging of how much drains that I lost by doing Halloween Mania 2. And even though that I did had enough time, considering that I had so much time in the summer and mostly in the spring while I made these videos, I really had to do what I could, and I just had less ideas of what I'm gonna do for November when my schedule is gonna be back to normal. But then again, I really feel like I was just attempting to at least do something a lot more exciting to give Halloween Mania 2 some respect. Mainly the Victor Valentino Lonely Hearts Club quadrilogy. This was one of the first ideas that came into mind, which is ironic considering I did the other videos first, but this was going to be a lot more complicated that I want to save for last. And while it was a pain for me to put all this together, I still managed to do it all in time for the final week of Halloween Mania 2. I did make it in time, and I don't even think I'm going to be willing to do this for next year, but that also applies to other videos that I did for this month. Honestly, that just makes me feel like that whenever you try to do something different in order to make a schedule, and when you try to capitalize on doing a schedule by continuing the same thing that you did in the past, and mostly try to find different ideas along the way, you'll always get stuck in a corner. Like, after doing Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon, I was really free, and I didn't have any other option, especially since that I completed my September schedule, so I decided to do Halloween Mania 2 again because I had so much time. But at the same time, doing it wasn't really simple, and if I ended up doing other videos for November and maybe December, I would have been way ahead of time to the point that I'm relieved, but at the same time, I learned that doing things ahead of time when it comes to 3 months earlier just isn't really much of an accomplishment anymore. I just feel like that when I'm consistent into doing these types of projects and just trying to at least doing something new and just trying to make Halloween Mania really good when it comes to Halloween Mania 2, this was honestly something that was close to me considering, even if I'm not going to reach the same heights that I did last year, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be a lot of stops along the way, especially since that it just mostly became a dreadful experience into doing most of these projects, and at the end of the day, it's difficult to go back into these shows, and doing them for this Mania is somewhat of a good thing, but at the same time, you know for a while that it's just difficult for me to get back into these shows when it's just mainly into these holiday schedules. Even if you may agree with me or not, doing what I could for this Halloween Mania was way more dreadful, even if it may be worthwhile at the end, but it kind of shows that not every ideal is going to go on forever, which I had to learn it when it comes to Summerpalooza and Christmas, and sometimes Valentine's half month, considering I skipped that this year, but there are still alternatives on making that schedule still active even to this day. But then again, I still don't know if I'm going to continue that schedule for next year. I'm just thinking that whenever I think of Halloween Mania 2, especially with tomorrow being Halloween, before we finish up Halloween altogether, I'm mostly thankful I did Halloween Mania 2, but at the same time, it's better off if I just do 12 videos of Halloween rather than just doing basically what I did last year. Like, I did Summerpalooza literal when it comes to 2 and 3, and I tried to give Halloween Mania a chance by doing ideas that I ended up scrapping the previous year, mainly Sonic Knights of the Werehog. But you can't deny that Halloween Mania just ended up becoming the next Summerpalooza, which you pretty much knew that it's not going to continue on forever, and me saying that Halloween Mania is going to return will require me to doing a month dedicated to Halloween material of every single day, which just calling Halloween Mania of me uploading 12 videos just isn't what I consider Halloween Mania material. Even if it's mostly the case of the content that I provide, it's honestly a farce whenever you try to take it literal, was just gonna be draining at most. The role ideals, obviously, when it comes to Adventure Time, the eyes versus the blank-eyed girl, but at the same time, you pretty much knew I was really draining when I was doing the schedule to the point that it's better off if just to instantly move forwards by not doing the same thing over and over again and just cool down to put more focus on other projects. Granted, Halloween Mania 2 didn't get in the way of anything since I didn't do a fanfic for this schedule, but at the same time, you pretty much knew that there was a chance that there isn't a chance of doing another Halloween Mania 3, and the chance is just revolving back to your original schedule, which is why doing Halloween movies isn't really something I would like to isn't something I would do, because I have to spend hours of watching them, which is something I don't usually do nowadays. I do watch movies, but at the same time, I'm mostly picky, especially when it comes to the movies that I watch in theaters. I've only watched one movie in theaters of this year, and it had nothing to do with Halloween material. There are different genres of Halloween, and it could invested me, but at the same time, I don't celebrate holidays by reviewing movies. I'm not that type of person. And the choices that I made involving reviewing Fred 2, Night of the Living Fred, and Under Fist Halloween Bash was literally the closest that I can do when it comes to doing Halloween material. So, with that being said, if you're mostly disappointed that I'm never going to do another Halloween Mania, despite with some diamonds or gems that you are surprised that I did, keep in mind that's just basically the luck that I had back then, and the luck that I had when it comes to completing all that I had left. But if you still enjoy Halloween Mania 2 despite what I did, I'm still happy that you still enjoy it. It made me impressed that I actually did all this, and it gave me some kind of perspective on newer shows that I haven't watched, even if I may not have the ability to sit through them, but it kind of shows that you at least accomplish on having Halloween Mania returned. And to tell you the truth, that's the only gift I can give you when it comes to the schedule that I did for this month. And the vibes that I had for this month is just me refreshed that I'm not doing Steven Universe anymore, since that I completed all that, especially uploading the videos of that. But at the end of the day, you end up going through a new direction that you ended up reconsidering towards the end that you haven't experienced last year, but it's always a nuance, and the only thing that you should be thankful is that you actually did this marathon or mania to begin with. Honestly, guys, I really have nothing else to say other than that I just did what I could in order to make Halloween Mania 2 a thing, and my experiences of Halloween as a whole. There were a lot of major highlights, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, the beginning of doing these schedules was honestly a different story entirely, on how I just didn't feel in the spirit of Halloween like everyone else was. I was when I was a child, but at the same time, it was trick-or-treating. Just like children who go trick-or-treating to get candy from parents in the neighborhood. that just kind of made me feel of what I think about Halloween back in the day. And just considering of what I did of having Halloween videos in the earlier years of my channel, I really obviously I had to start somewhere. Obviously, holiday schedules had to start somewhere, and Halloween got the short end of the stick. It's just, the earlier years was honestly something that I'm mostly not proud of when it comes to Halloween. And 2021 is a step up, and 2022 happened at a really poor time when it comes to the experiences that I went through when it comes to other projects. But when it came to 2023, it was honestly redemption for Halloween to get the attention it deserves. So, you can say that Halloween Mania became the best thing that I did, and it's honestly one of my favorite schedules that I did in 2023. But at the same time, it can't always continue on knowing forward that you're gonna have less to work with when it comes to the ideals, while trying your best to make the video good as possible. But at the same time, it's the opposite of good and just attempting to try to make a Halloween review for the sake of making a Halloween review. Honestly, if you sit through this entire 1 hour and 10 minute video, then obviously I'm thankful for it. But keep in mind, you're not going to be able to see another Halloween Mania for me anytime soon, especially with less options that I have. Like 62 videos, which you include this, and the videos that I did last year. That's honestly triple of the Lonely's 25 Days of Christmas. Almost. Granted, it would have been 75 of Lonely's 25 Days of Christmas, but at the same time, I still wouldn't be able to do 3 of those if I tried, and doing 2 Halloween Manias is honestly the same accomplishment of doing Summerpalooza 2 and 3. Whether of you find these videos somewhat enjoyable or not, I'm thankful for that, but at the same time, this was something that I'm attempting to put together when it comes to the feelings that I have back then, but now I think it's best that Halloween got the respect it deserves, and there will be Halloween reviews for the following years on my channel, especially when it comes to the regular show episodes, possibly, but at the same time, you're probably not going to see Halloween Mania again. And I'm being legitimately serious, because with ideas I have in mind for 2025, Halloween Mania is not going to be a thing. It's just going to be resorted back to doing just Halloween reviews off of the year itself. Honestly, that's honestly for the best, because I went through a lot for this month, and for tomorrow wrapping up Halloween entirely while keeping it as a secret, unless if you understand the hits that I expressed in my regular show review that I did for this month. You may understand, but I did save the best for last by wrapping up Halloween Mania 2 for tomorrow. Just understand that, despite the hiccups along the way, I still found a way to wrap up Halloween Mania in a surprising twist. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow with Halloween Mania 2, concluding along with the surprise review that I've kept for over the past month until Halloween arrives completely. I'm sure you may not find the review surprising, and it's not a movie review, but at the same time, it's a surprise that made me thankful that I wrapped up Halloween Mania 2 on a good note. And I'm hoping that we can all agree on that.